Let's go Broncos! Something huge is brewing in Denver, and I have to tell you, this might be the most important roster breakdown we've seen in years. ESPN just ranked the Broncos as the sixth best team in the entire NFL, but here's the twist. There are some shocking projections in the starting lineup that could completely change how this team plays in 2025. And wait until you hear what they said is the Broncos' biggest strength and their biggest weakness. Trust me, Broncos country, you're going to want to stick with me until the very end, because by the time we're done, you might start believing this team is closer to a Super Bowl run than anyone's giving them credit for. But before we go further, hit that like button if you're a real Broncos fan, and if you've been bleeding orange and blue for decades, comment right now. Go Broncos! My heart bleeds orange and blue, because what I'm about to share with you could change the way you look at this roster heading into training camp. Now, here's where it gets crazy. The Broncos have been ranked as the sixth best roster in the entire NFL, according to ESPN, which is huge considering where this team was just a couple of years ago. Sixth overall, only behind Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit, Buffalo, and Kansas City. But here's the controversial part. Many believe the Chiefs at number 5 don't have as strong of an overall roster as the Broncos. Individually, Kansas City has elite stars, sure, but top to bottom, Denver might actually be deeper, especially on the defensive side. Broncos fans know this team's defense has been ranked as one of the best in the league, often sitting at number 1 or 2 across multiple outlets. Pair that with an offense that ESPN currently places between 10 and 15 in the league, and 6th overall starts to feel very justified. But is that too low for a team that might dominate both lines of scrimmage in 2025? The projected starting lineup brought some unexpected choices. ESPN listed Pat Bryant over Devin Vele on offense, which actually makes sense if you've been following training camp reports. Bryant has been shining since rookie minicamp and in OTAs. But the real shocker comes on defense, where ESPN projects Jaquan McMillan or possibly Jade Barron over Riley Moss. That's puzzling because many expected the starting corners to be Pat Certain, Riley Moss, and Jade Barron in the nickel spot, with McMillan as depth. ESPN could be wrong here, and several analysts are already pushing back, predicting Moss keeps his starting role. But if McMillan or Barron really does win that spot, it could mean Sean Payton is valuing versatility and coverage over previous depth chart expectations. Now, let's talk about what ESPN considers the Broncos' biggest strength, the offensive line. And honestly, the numbers back it up in a big way. Denver led the entire NFL last season in both pass block and run block win rates. That's insane. All 5 starters, Garrett Bowles, Ben Powers, Luke Wattenberg, Quinn Meinerz, and Mike McGlinchey, returned for 2025, and 3 of them ranked in the top 4 league-wide in pass block win rate. Wattenberg was first, Meinerz was third, and Powers was fourth. That kind of dominance in the trenches is a recipe for playoff success, especially when you combine it with Denver's already elite pass rush. Imagine being able to control both lines of scrimmage week in and week out. That's how teams make Super Bowl runs, and Sean Payton knows it. But the X factor? ESPN nailed it here. Marvin Mims. His speed and efficiency are undeniable. He averaged 2.8 yards per route run last season, but he only ran 182 routes, with 20 of his 52 targets being screen passes. That means his deep route tree was barely used. If Mims cleans up his route running and becomes a more complete wide receiver, he could transform this offense. We might be looking at a breakout year, with Courtland Sutton as the steady WR1 and Mims as the explosive weapon defense's fear. If Mims hits his ceiling, Denver's passing game could jump into the top 10, no question. Now, ESPN listed the biggest weakness as the wide receiver group, and I get why they said it, but I think they're wrong on the reasoning. Their argument is that the receivers are unproven, which isn't exactly a weakness, it's just unknown. That also means there's massive upside. Last year, Denver ranked 24th among wide receiver groups and won 1-6 in one-score games, often because the passing attack couldn't stretch the field. The heat maps showed Denver was terrible at hitting deep shots. That has to change, and it could if the run game and tight ends create more play-action opportunities. Adding Evan Engram and running backs like J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey should help tremendously, freeing up receivers to get open deep. If that happens, this so-called weakness could turn into a strength real fast. And here's where things get even more interesting, Broncos country, because the way Sean Payton might scheme this offense in 2025 could be the difference between another average season and a legitimate Super Bowl run. Let's break this down. The Broncos' offensive struggles last year were crystal clear. They didn't throw deep. The heat map doesn't lie. Denver almost completely avoided taking shots downfield, which allowed defenses to load up against the short passing game and the run. But with a more stable offensive line, improved play-action opportunities, and Marvin Mims poised for a breakout, that is about to change. The additions of Evan Engram at tight end and J.K. Dobbins in the backfield are going to be critical in fixing this problem. Play action only works if defenses respect your run game, and last season, the Broncos simply didn't have that consistent threat. Now, with Dobbins and even R.J. Harvey bringing fresh legs, Payton can force defenses to bite on the run more frequently. That's when Marvin Mims and Courtland Sutton can do the most damage, stretching the field, creating explosive plays, and forcing safeties to back off. And here's the real key. Engram is going to open up so many opportunities for these young receivers. If defenses have to bracket Engram in coverage, that leaves one-on-one matchups for Sutton and Mims on the outside, which is exactly what Payton wants. The question now becomes, who steps up as that true WR2 behind Sutton? Marvin Mims is the obvious candidate, but don't sleep on Pat Bryant. ESPN projecting him as a starter over Devin Vele raised some eyebrows, but if Bryant continues to perform the way he has in camp, Payton might trust him to take significant snaps. Bryant's size and physicality fit Payton's preference for bigger receivers, and if he builds chemistry with Bo Nix early, he could quietly become one of the Broncos' most reliable options. Speaking of Bo Nix, this entire offensive turnaround hinges on him taking that next step. The Broncos didn't stretch the field last year partly because of poor route execution, but also because the quarterback play simply wasn't consistent enough to trust those deep throws. If Nix could show improvement in his timing and accuracy, especially on intermediate and deep routes, this offense could look completely different by mid-season. And Payton knows this. Expect him to design high-percentage play-action deep shots early in the season to get Nix comfortable attacking downfield. Now, let's shift back to the defense for a second because this is what really makes Denver dangerous. The pass rush is elite. Even though ESPN named the offensive line as the biggest strength, there's no question that this defense can win games on its own. If the offense even takes a moderate step forward, the Broncos will be in every single game they play. But depth remains a real concern at linebacker. One or two injuries could leave Denver vulnerable against power-running teams, and Payton will need to manage rotations carefully to keep his starters healthy deep into the season. So here's the big question. Broncos country, if everything clicks, if Mims becomes that X factor, if the run game forces defenses to respect play action, and if Bo Nix can hit on those deep balls, can this team realistically win the AFC West? Kansas City has ruled this division for years, but with Denver ranked 6th overall and arguably deeper on both lines of scrimmage, this might be the year they finally make that leap. I want to hear from you right now. Do you believe the Broncos have the roster to dethrone the Chiefs and make a real Super Bowl push this season? Or are we still 1 year away? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you want more daily Broncos breakdowns, and don't forget to subscribe because we're just getting started. Click on the video on your screen right now for more in-depth training camp updates, and I'll see you there. Go Broncos!